why do so many people view philosophy as pointless? And they kind of there's a big disinterest. Like, they're happy to talk about politics. They'll argue about a Supreme Court case or a law or whatever, or they're happy to argue about that stuff. But the minute you step back and say, let's have a discussion about philosophy, because that's what actually pertains to all of this, and we need to apply it properly, it's their eyes glaze over often, and they're like, this is just a boring thing unrelated to my world, and I'm going to go away now so I can scream at the other side.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the reasons is that much of philosophy is pointless crap. So we'll start off with the negative.
You can't say that while I'm taking a sip.
So if you look at
much
of the main philosophical schools that developed over the course of the 20th century, most of them were explicitly self-destructive. They say we have no answers to any of life's questions, and so some of them just get into pointless word chopping, and they're self-consciously just doing that, or they go off into self-indulgences of various sort, or they end up taking themselves seriously and ending up in various sorts of nihilism. So.
Whenever I have a question about how I might find more vibrant paradigms, I ask Nuance Ho or Jackson Washburn over the internet.
You just did that,
and
Norm Macdonald
it's revealed unto me through their vapid answers.
What you just redid the Norm Macdonald bit about, who was it? God damn it! His name's escaping me. Seth Meyer.
Oh yes.
When I think of comedy, I think what would
Seth Meyer do?
How do you choose what to reveal and what not to reveal, what to share and what not to share about an institution as powerful as that?
I always think, what would Seth Meyers do? Ridiculous.
Do you have like a necklace or something with a WWSMD on it? And whenever you're in a pickle, just hold that. And what would Seth do?
Yeah, because, if you really want to be really funny, then that's what you want to do. You want to think, what would make Seth Meyers laugh? That's how I live my life.
What do you think of his?
When I'm looking for vibrant paradigms in expanding my thought, to use maybe a Foucauldian term, think of like an expansion of thought, other forms of meaning, how does it exactly say? Explore the potentialities of meaning. Open up a window in the prison walls of my religious experience. I ask, hey, Nuance Ho, how do I see beyond my little prison cell of a systemic system that I'm in? Help me, Nuance Ho. Do you have a life coach? You can give me? I got $25 in my pocket. Do you have a life coach I could ask? Or I don't know, maybe I need somebody who's got like an official divinity school.
No life coach. I want you to make that monologue the introductory bumper. Help me, Nuance Ho. Help me.
Help me, Nuance Ho. Is there a guy with a divinity school degree around? I need a doctor.
The only problem is that there are exactly 0 life coaches in the world who will take you on for $25.
Oh gosh.
Start immediately. You guys will be so convinced that you need to follow him on all social media platforms and then call him up and say, please coach me through my life transition process. I think we'll just make the case as we keep talking.
So your investment in my Financial Abundance exclusive coaching package is only $83,333.33.
That's a lot of money.
Per month.
$83K per month?
And it's a 12-month commitment.
That is a crazy cost. No way.
Jator, how much would it cost you if you don't invest in yourself fully?
The most American religious other.
What I'm interested in doing on this subject and others is, having scholarly informed approaches, but doing good theology as well. And the kind of education that I've sought after is one that promotes mature, theological thought and of a rather high esteem. So my point with that is, this isn't just me kind of retconning Mormon history because it makes me uncomfortable. What I'm seeking to do is a solid theology to really work through Mormonism and present the strongest kind of framing of it in my own personal faith and practice and religious devotion.
Got to be talking about weird kind of intersectionality that Mormons too are othered. They're in their othered spaces.
What is the most American quote? Religious other.
Yeah.
Are Mormons more othered than Muslims in America?
Well, they're not from America. They're not
American religion is what he's talking about. I don't know.
Well, because what are the American religions? Like the big ones, what? Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists, Mormons. Those are the big ones, right? Because those all came out of millenarianism.
Yeah,
Scientology is an American religion. Although
don't look now.
Although a lot of Scientology was developed, like a lot of the golden era of Scientology before L. Ron Hubbard ended up running from everybody took place in England. So I guess that doesn't count. But yeah, so really, what are they? There's Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists, Mormons, and all of their offshoots. Is there anybody else? Am I leaving anybody out?
I don't think so. But I think of this in terms of like somebody like my dad, and my dad who's still very much Mormon. And if you were to tell him like that he is othered or something like that, if like you're talking about in the under the banner of heaven things, how they try to act like there's bigotry against Mormonism or something like that. If you presented it to my dad, and
I do
said,
think there is in that. I somewhat agree with it, but
so no, they're shitty to Mormonism in Under the Banner of Heaven. That's for sure. And there's a lot of people who are shitty to Mormonism and probably more unfair to them. And other Christians are very unfair to Mormonism. I'm totally with that. But you present this to my dad as something and present it in a way that like, see, you're a victim here. You are a victim of bigotry. It's like, I'm not a fucking pussy.
Yeah, taking it on in the Marxian way that they want you to take it on, because it is the Marxian way. But look at this, Mormon book reviews. Steve Pinecker, where an evangelical encounters the restoration. Listen, Stephen, we are done with you, evangelicals. No more of you.
Who is that guy? That name keeps popping up, but I don't know who he is.
He's evangelical, but he does actual interviews, and he's actually he's doing what John Dehlin would do if he was actually kind of more on the journalistic side. Just interviews people from all sides of Mormonism.
But he says, an evangelical. He
says, I'm an evangelical who encounters, and he's completely nice. He's completely decent. He's decent to all sides, like wokeism, whatever, this, that, that, other. But Dan McClellan is done with you. They're done with you.
No, if you want like a fix to fill the void that Mormon stories used to fill, where he would interview people with ridiculous ideas, but like give them a decent amount of pushback that like, oh, well, your critics might say this. What do you think about it? And then you go to Mormon book reviews. Stephen Pinecker, he's nice to them, and they come on his channel. They don't come on to John Dehlin's channel because he's openly hostile toward them, because he has to be as per his new religion.
But we should, when we find out he's evangelical, according to Dan McClellan, although he deleted that post, is fine for us to assume coming into our conversation with Dan McClellan, although they do come into assuming that with us just because we're white. But we got to assume we're dealing with a racist there.
Did he delete it, or did he just block all of us?
He deleted. That was one of the ones he deleted over John Streeter and made it look like Jonathan Streeter was talking to himself. That's where Jonathan Streeter came back and said, "That's some Maoist crap right there." That you say that is fine for
straight Maoist.
James Lindsay, dude. Mormons are already woke.
You know what? I've been thinking about this, like, because Jonathan Streeter, he's got that niceness thing that I envy.
Oh, you do not realize what kind of a can of whoop-ass you have opened.
He's just got that ability and willingness and desire to maintain the niceness.
I'm calling you out. You have no idea what kind of pain you are going to suffer.
But I kind of wonder, like, are they going to turn him? Because for a long time, he's John Streeter. Because, like, as he gets blocked and maligned and all this crap, like,
is he going to get mean?
One of us? Yeah, is he gonna get? Is he gonna get to where? Is he gonna get mean, or will he maintain that niceness?
I will come after your children. I will come after your children's children. I will come after multiple generations of you and smack you down.
Like
I don't know.
I hope. I don't know. Like I like both versions. I like both versions of Jonathan because, like, you know, like I said, I appreciate people who are that devoted to getting along. I wish I had that.
Well, I mean, he'll say. I mean, he definitely will on Mormon stories come out and be very direct with stuff that he disagrees with. On
He's been
on the
direct a
pages
few
there.
times. Well, that was how I first started talking.
I think he's finding out that the nice guy routine goes nowhere.
Oh, he found out a long time ago.
Well,
I mean,
it's not
well, the
even
problem
really
is it's not a routine. It's what.
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
not a routine.
I
for
don't
him.
mean the routine,
It's
but I just
a-
mean that, like,
so-
just by virtue of being nice doesn't mean that they're going to be nice back.
No,
See, my
I mean,
first
he's
interactions.
been through like a full cancellation in the Mormon community.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
if anybody like starts talking about him at any sort of point, somebody might pop on there real quick. His fake apology by the church just got him.
Yeah, that's right.
He got excommunicated for that.
Yeah,
Like,
David
he
Bockerboy is
can't-
pretty pissed at that.
That is like, I mean, because like he's a doctor and stuff, so he's got a lot of things to feel accomplished about. But that thing where he punked the whole world, that like he
well, it's also what he got canceled for.
See, my first ever interactions I remember with him was, well, he messaged me and my wife because my wife's got that channel. He wanted to do some sort of collaboration, but then I started noticing him posting shit that like didn't totally go along with the woke stuff, and I'd be like, how are you not? How do more people not hate you? I don't get it, because I'll say the same thing as you do, and just get everybody hates me. But like Jonathan's sort of a beloved figure, and he's less of an asshole than I am too. And I've asked him that before. I'm like, I think maybe I need to change and be less snarky. But I don't know. I don't know if he'll ever become as snarky as I am. He has the ability, but that's just kind of who he is. I think
he's seeping out. He's seeping out little bits of it, but I think there's part of a level of it too. Like, he already had like a bit of following, and enough people knew him. I think it's probably best to drip it out rather than just like come out on fire like we come out. He's actually got the ears of people. Like, people don't hear us unless we scream and knock on doors and kick down windows, you know. But that people might listen to him saying, "Hey guys, this is kind of stupid."
You guys saw that screenshot from the comment section from Nuance Ho's live stream?
Yeah,
you guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah, so that happens.
I don't know how much she's listened to him later, or if she'll sit for like the long sessions of some of that stuff.
For the audience, in today's Nuance Ho stream, somebody posted in the live chat, "Hey, have you ever interviewed or been interviewed by Thinker of Thoughts?" That's Jonathan Streeter. And Nuance Ho replies, "I need someone to make an introduction. Still love that man." Sounds like an invitation.
Still,
she must not have.
But the thing is, like,
I wonder. I want to see that play out. I'm curious.
One of the reasons I think Jonathan stayed above all of it too is he doesn't really agree to interviews. You know, just sitting there and BSing about interviews. Like, to him, there's got to be a subject at hand that we're going over.
Oh yeah.
And he's not going to sit down and say, "Hey, here's my exit story." And
he's
all
one of those put together doctor types that knows better than to waste his time with idle talk.
Well, no, I actually asked him that one time. I was like, "How come you've never done a Mormon Stories interview?" He's like, "Well, I guess John Delen's
I'm
asked
saving
him
people's
before."
lives from cancer.
Yeah.
Well, Steve from Mormon Book Reviews asked.
You
asked
play
him
drums
about
there,
it.
drummer? I save lives.
Fuck you and your hypothetical piety, Jonathan.
Oh, John.
Yeah.
Why
That's
isn't he
takedown of
here? Yeah.
Well, because I mean, I think
We just talked about it. He's busy doing more important things.
All right, this might be the grand finale. Although, should I do the one where he did Jordan Peterson too?
Man, I am ripping through beer.
Are you ready to guess?
We're talking about alcoholism. You already showed us. We're watching the Majority Report, right?
No. Is she good or not good?
Well, let's see. Shoulders, doily dress, still more skin than most. Is the camera reversed, or is she genuinely left-handed? Because the thing is, if you're left-handed and you can play guitar, then that shows that you're actually trying, because
you're devoted enough to track down a lefty guitar.
You have to find a left-handed guitar, and you have to find you either have to buy one or you have to find a dead left-handed person and take his guitar.
That reminds me of one of the most snobby things I've ever done in my life. Is we had this half day at high school, and me and this other guy and a group of girls went out. We're walking along. We went to a music store, and we're playing a little bit of guitar. And he's talking about, yeah, I've been playing guitar. He's trying to impress these girls, and he's irritating me by like being irritatingly flirty with these girls. And I handed him a guitar. And I was like, here, what do you think of this? He was like, oh, it looks pretty nice. He starts playing. He can't do anything. He's not figuring out why. And it was a lefty guitar.
He didn't even notice.
So I felt like such an asshole afterwards. Because like, you just made that guy look like an idiot. And no good
say, like, there's a guy, I forget what it's called, but there's an Italian guitar maker. And he's funny because he makes like very sought after handmade electric guitars, but he's left-handed. And so his thing is he does the opposite of all the other guitar makers, where he just makes left-handed guitars. And if you want a right-handed one, you have to pay an extra $600 and wait a year.
That's awesome. All right, I'm gonna guess. Look, I'm gonna guess you're throwing us through a loop here, and she's actually really good.
Let's see. So let's try to, like, in this pause, her hand position could be real. And the way that her hand is attacking the strumming hand looks like actual strumming.
There's no cleavage, and she looks
no cleavage.
Like, she looks classy, pretty. So I'm hoping for good.
But she's still a little too overdressed for play.
This says 75K, 25.
Oh, 75K.
Heart, 75K watches.
She's no good.
Okay, she's no good.
Oh no!
She's getting there. How many views would I get for that?
No, the thing is, like, I want to tell these girls, like all the time you spend setting up your camera, just practice scales and see what happens.
Oh, see, Jared's doing it now. So now we should get about 75K.
So this is 3.5 shots in on an out-of-tune guitar. Right.
Watch those likes go up. They're going up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000.
Plug in, baby.
To the moon. To the moon.
That's Plug In Baby by Muse, and I just happened to know it.
I don't know that. I don't even know it, but
I thought it sounded like kind of classically stuff. Now we're going way through the roof.
Like, I don't even know the song, but I can do what she's doing.
No, we've got a channel now, guys.
Let me take my shirt off. Or is there more goodness?
There's more goodness if you want to keep doing
more goodness.
Well, there's this one,
more
Sam
goodness.
Cedar, but
oh, god damn it, this thing. We could retitle this whole thing Iron Law of Woke Projection for 18 minutes and 29 seconds. Watch these people say about Jordan Peterson everything that they believe about their cherished experts. Because the other thing, like, I mean, I was listening to this earlier, and I was thinking about talking to you guys, and I already had the question in my mind. First off, have you ever heard anybody anywhere that talks about Jordan Peterson as any kind of guru?
No.
But second,
people just kind of
like, if let's just say your 14-year-old nephew or cousin or whatever came to either one of you guys and said, boy, I really like this Jordan Peterson. I believe everything he says and follow him to the letter. Would your reaction be anything but, hold on?
Yeah. No, that's
yeah. Because like
we know the Mormon group, the biggest followers of Jordan Peterson in the Mormon world, the Latter-day Losters, and they are probably the harshest people on all of Facebook to Jordan Peterson.
They've been making fun of him a lot lately.
Yeah. But that thing's like really like, because that thing's like everything that these guys say about Jordan Peterson and or specifically what they think that the way they believe that the right views him is just perfect projection of, for example, how the left views Robin DiAngelo.
Like, look at this more
everything they
point.
claim.
We spend all this time listening to them, and they spend zero time listening to anything else.
Yeah, but also
part of it is that we don't
like,
really listen. I don't listen to Jordan Peterson because of his credentials. I listen to him because of like what he says resonates with me. And I remember thinking about that, because I got into him when that whole Bill C-16 blew up, and I was like, that's cool. He's standing up to something that he views as terrible.
Let's try and steal,
and then he just happened to had like just a million hours of lectures on something totally unrelated. That
I mentioned
awesome.
Yeah. And I liked the way he reviewed the Bible. I thought that made the Bible more interesting to think of it like that.
Made me like the Bible again.
Yeah.
Let's try and steal man. What's our best steel man of criticisms of Jordan Peterson? Because like for me, like the basic thing is that like a lot of his ideas are pretty nebulous and very hard to understand. You know, like when he gets into the grand stuff and the Jungian and the archetypes, it's pretty fluffy and it's really hard to nail down anything there. Like that, you know, that's one of my criticisms of Jordan Peterson. Like the diet thing is a little weird, but
the stuff with his daughter, his interaction with his daughter is all strange.
The interaction with daughter, like, a lot of stuff is a little weird there. And it's like, you know, like, I mean, you know, I don't think that just because you have a drug problem that's
actually, I don't think the benzo thing, some of the recovery stuff's a bit strange, but
there's like,
I don't think having some drug addiction to something that was a prescribed drug is the dunk that the left
there's definitely a lot of weirdness there. But like,
no, so and this
does
one
anybody
is one of those
actually see him as a guru? Who are the people the left are talking about? Because I've never encountered them. Is there a Facebook group of Jordan Peterson sycophants?
Super mega fans? I'm in like 3 or 4 Jordan Peterson groups from different fields of the world who also like Jordan Peterson. And every single one of them is full of people who make fun of Jordan Peterson as much as they like Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, see, I that makes sense. Yeah. Because I don't know exactly how to qualify him.
So I got some friends that try to shit on Jordan Peterson every time he does something stupid or something like that.
I just love it
because they know I like him, and but the thing is, it never really works because sometimes I'll be like, well, that actually wasn't that stupid, but then other times, like the whole thing with the fat model, whatever her name was, when he says no, not beautiful. And no amount of authoritarian, you know.
Sorry, not beautiful, and no amount of authoritarian. Geez,
but there's a point to all that. It's over the top, but there's a point. Yeah.
So the point when I heard that, like I've thought about it, and I think that maybe there's definitely something to what he said, and if you're going to the top of the top, then that doesn't qualify as the top of beauty. But like when somebody, if he had said that about somebody legitimately beautiful, like somebody that does qualify as that, I remember when they told me about that, I was just like, oh, well, I guess he's wrong about that. And that's it. Like because he can be wrong about things that it doesn't bother me. I just say, well, yeah, he's not.
And they're pretending to not know that he's talking about the general societal push on body image stuff and not just that specific instance in that specific model. They're being deliberately stupid there.
Yeah, and the thing is, like we've all been involved in an instance where there's a prophet you're not supposed to question, and so like we can see the difference. Because I remember having those conversations with companions where, like my companions, I had that conversation where my mission president is telling us that we shouldn't question because Adam didn't question, and why would we feel emboldened to ask why? Because Adam didn't ask why he had to sacrifice animals. And I told my companions, like, but why shouldn't we ask why? Isn't that how our entire religion was begun? And he was like, he was scared. He gets like, oh, we can't question the guru. We can't question the prophet. And that confused me. And maybe I've just never viewed anybody as an actual prophet, but I think the default is to view people you respect as prophets and be completely shaken when they're incorrect about a thing.
Whatever that belief system happens to be, and it falls apart on you at any one point, you suffer for 2 reasons. The first is your belief system fell apart. And that's not a good thing. It leaves everything unfixed and open, and you drown in possibility in a sense. That's a Kierkegaardian phrase. But the second consequence is even worse. Once you've learned that one belief system that's solid could be demolished and fall apart, then it's very difficult ever again to have any faith in any belief systems whatsoever. So not only do you become a doubter of your own creed, let's say, you become a meta-doubter, which is the doubter of all belief systems. Well, in the step from that to nihilism, maybe those are exactly the same thing. You know, and that's really, you could think about that in some sense as the disease of the critical rational mind. It can saw off any branch that it's sitting on.
So if Jordan Peterson's crazy incorrect about something, I'm not going to be shaken about it. I'm going to be like, yeah, he's wrong about that thing. I love all the other stuff that he said, though.
No, that's like because I've listened to a lot of Peterson, hardly all of it. I never read his book, for example. Like, I find him very interesting, mostly. And, you know, and also like his psychological, sociological knowledge and data is all excellent, you know, but like mostly I just find him very, very interesting. But like for me, the most interesting thing about him is the left's reaction to him. And in fact, because like years ago, I got into a thing with my sister, and it was even over text. And actually, I mean, it started because she was visiting town. It started out driving in a car, and I brought up Peterson to bring up that famous BBC debate. And it wasn't even to talk about anything about Peterson itself. I was just trying to bring up how the media failed. And I never even got to that point with my sister. Yeah, because she immediately just came back to, he's a Nazi. I'm like, no, I'm not even talking about that. Never mind, is Jordan Peterson right or wrong? I'm talking about how the left-wing media talk about him. Couldn't even get there. And
my enemy is ontologically evil.
Yeah, that's the most interesting thing about him is that how people react to him is far more interesting than what he says.
And DeLynn and Zelf on the Shelf and all them always kind of constantly drop the exact same talking points. But Peterson was an important moment. He was an important moment for me just to like stop and him right along with hate, almost kind of like right at the same time, just kind of got me to curb off of what might have been maybe me getting like a bit militant against religion and kind of going the other way and being, oh, hold off here. And then that doesn't mean that I'm ultimately like, okay, well, go gadget religion, because I actually think most of our problems are still religious ones here. But he pointed me to a ton of different thinkers, and I know I'm not the only one. It's everybody did. He gave postmodernism a name that was huge. I was somebody who knew that it was the nothing. I used to call it the nothing. I actually have a picture of myself calling it the nothing a few years ago because it came up on my Facebook memories. But nobody had a name for it. It was just this nebulous thing. And because he was that lightning rod to make that conversation happen, it just ignited a huge awareness in the entire Western world about the stuff that was going on that I knew was going on, and I couldn't make people look at it. On top of that, too, he had just a ton of great information. I watched all his stuff he put online, all of his classes from the university. You could watch all of his classes from the university. I watched every single one of them. It was like getting to go to a university class and watch all this stuff on psychology and learn all these things about other psychologists. I've always said he's kind of like a Malcolm Gladwell to all this extra information. That was super important. Now, the other thing is over time, you know, I like his concepts of re-explaining and rethinking why old traditions and old wisdoms are worth thinking about or even articulating better. I think one of our whole points of being here is we know that we're coming from a side that's bad at articulating things. I mean, really what the point of it is the left they have the bully pulpit. They're blabbing and saying a lie every single minute. And there's some sort of thing where the people on the other side of it just almost can't even defend themselves because they basically don't have language for it.
Oftentimes they just say shit like, well, God said so. Like maybe polyamory is a bad move for you because, well, God said so. Like they can't articulate.
Exactly. They're bad at it. They're bad at defending themselves. And then like you talked about earlier, they almost like have this level 2 of like their highest priority is niceness and being nice. Mm-hmm. And so they won't push back and fight back. And Peterson kind of gave some backbone to people saying, nah, push back. Even if you sound ridiculous, even if you seem like the jerk for a little bit, even if it seems like you're being a bit, why are you dying on this hill? Why are you making a big deal of this? And then frequently he just gets exonerated because they do end up making that the biggest deal in the world, the thing that he's dying on
that's why even when they kind of go a little bit overboard, I'll always kind of go for the Midnight Mormons because the number one thing that Mormonism taught me was don't rock the boat ever. That's the only value that matters. And that's
I love that about the Midnight Mormons.
Yeah, they rock the boat. And that's why when Quick is saying Quick talks about how people are getting punished for for speaking out against critical race theory or whatever it is at church because that's perceived as rocking the boat. But the other people who are trying to bring critical race theory in are not punished for rocking the boat.
I love
So
articulate
I
Mormons
like
as a
Midnight
fanboy.
Mormons.
I throw out a bone to Dan Ellsworth. His blog is good too, and a lot of different people like daring to speak out, and then even being able to be articulate about their own beliefs and back them up and defend them. And it's not saying, because of course from that left wing side it means, so you're going full Lafferty, you're going full Lafferty defending your religion, right? Like, no, there's people in the middle, the libertarian right need to get better at articulating this stuff. It's also kind of fun to try to articulate this stuff when you come across these endless amounts of push from the left-wing side about stuff and saying, no, actually there's this. I mean, the whole entire point of the day is these divinity school guys, they are tough to argue back against. I can't imagine like a lot of people being confronted with them having any idea how to even try to come back at this.
Although they do have the advantage that they are doing their arguments on Facebook and they just block people. Because can you imagine how it goes back? Like 500 years ago in Oxford Divinity School, like, I mean, I guess you could just have somebody like hauled off and executed.
Burn him.
Like, yeah,
CRC is data driven. No, it's not. Burn him.
It's really easy to win the conversation when you can control what people say. So
yeah. But the left is ridiculous about Jordan Peterson. They're absolutely ridiculous, and then especially like all the Twitter leftists who just think it's so funny to dunk on him. Like, his room wasn't clean once. We have a picture of it. Whoa. And oh, he's on benzos. And oh, Zizek owned you. Zizek did not own Peterson. I'm sorry. Zizek was just a squirrely little worm and didn't hold to anything, even what the debate was about. That's not winning. He squirmed out of the debate. That's what he did.
Zizek literally could have done his entire bit in Slovenian, and his argument would have had the exact same weight to me.
Basically, what I was pleading for, and I like to put it in paradoxical terms, was for a return from Marx back to Hegel. I define myself more as a Hegelian. Why? Hegel is considered a madman, you know.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I found this backstage. Oversized hat. It's funny.
No, it's not.
Sure it is. It's funny. It's funny because it's bigger than a normal hat.
I see that. Get back to.
And then they just like have this like they say it outright, like Peterson got owned in that debate. No, he did not.
No, he didn't. But the other thing is like this whole thing where people try to criticize him for like not having a clean room or for having a benzo addiction. It's like, so you're missing the point, is what I get from that. Like, you completely missed the point.
Yeah.
Because Peterson always talks about like
he said journey, from the beginning, like, his whole entire thing about fighting is what's going to happen to me when I fall apart, because I'm going to fall apart. Something's going to go wrong. How do I get out of things going wrong? Because it's not going to be, my life's not going to be perfect.
One is things fall apart. Just entropy. It's straight entropy. I don't remember which law of thermodynamics that is, but it's one of the big laws of thermodynamics. It's one of the top three, man. Things fall apart of their own accord. And that's one of the things that we have to contend with. And then the rate at which things fall apart is sped by the sins of men. That's the other idea. And you know that. Everyone knows that because you know, your car breaks down on the highway and you think, God, that's so inconvenient. And then you shake your fist at the sky, and then there's part of you in the back of your mind that goes, God, I knew that rattle that I wasn't paying attention to actually signified something, and I knew I should have paid attention to it, and I didn't, and now I'm in the situation that I'm in now. And I bet you this happens to people 2 or 3 times a week, is they do something stupid that they know they shouldn't have done, that they told themselves not to do mere seconds before, and they know the voice says, don't do that. Yeah, you do it. You get nailed for it exactly the way that you knew you would get nailed for it, and then you're hurt doubly because not only did it fall apart, but you're the idiot that made it fall apart, knowing full well that it was going to fall apart and ignoring it. And so that's the idea behind the notion that there are 2 reasons that things fall apart: thermodynamic entropy and the proclivity of people not to attend to things they know they should attend to.
That was actually one of the most haunting parts. I didn't read his book until the second book had already come out, and then I read the second book. And so after I read the first book, the very ending of it is him talking about how, yeah, things have sucked for us because my daughter had all these health issues. My wife had this going on. We had a bunch of shit thrown at us, but we got this going for us, this going for us, this going for us. And he uses the word at the end. He says, things are really good for now. It's just for now. And then that was like just a couple years before that 2019 year where he went on it was like he knew. And I listened to the audiobook, so it's like it was ominous. It's like he was predicting his own bullshit. And so it was pretty, like I heard that and I was like, oh buddy, that's so sad. I know what you're about to go through.
So, but there's another one too, because I read the first book. I have not read the second book. I've poked through Maps of Meaning. It's big and dense. It's kind of like a textbook, so you don't like read it through, kind of like other stuff. And I poked through a lot of stuff of it. But I liked a lot of stuff back in the day. I'll just be straight honest. Like the past 6, 7, 8 months, most of his interviews are kind of dull to me, and I just don't get through a lot.
He kind of interrupts a little much. Like the Richard Dawkins one, he interrupted way too much.
Mm-hmm. And I'm probably not gonna purchase. I don't have, and not just yet because Jordan Peterson's there. Get like a Daily Wire. I don't pay for that. If I ever did, it's probably because I wanted to see one of their movies or something like that. But
yeah, I bought it for the Matt Walsh documentary.
yeah. And I am interested in some of those other movies they put out. Not that they'd be perfect or great, but just they're interesting enough, But it's not for Jordan Peterson that I'd be paying for it, because just like an extra half hour of that. A lot of people are critical of that. And he partially said, they have a secured platform. I'm getting kicked off of everything, and I got to go somewhere that they can't like boot me so easily. But
all right, well, before you
report.
What?
Because this
Sam Cedar sucks, dude. This isn't even Sam Cedar.
Oh,
this is the rest of them. But
I listened to this, and this will take us 3 hours to get through.
Oh, really? Do you want to not do it?
I'm just
the other
saying,
one,
like,
the other finale that I have too is just as bad. It's them in the Under Banner of Heaven, where they call the new atheists imperialists. John Krakauer comes out of the same time frame where all those guys were being Islamophobic because of 2001. So they're super Islamophobic, and now they're directing that same ire towards the Book of Mormon, or not to the Book of Mormon, to the Mormons, and they are that other who are being bigoted against. So they basically have this concept that the ultimate imperialists are the new atheists. And
I mean, we could do that one because it's more, I guess, relevant. Because this we could.
Well, there's this thing, because this guy says that Zizek just owned him. No, he didn't. And then Dan has this thing where he does the thing of saying Jordan Peterson.
Is Dan. You're right. So.
Yeah, he goes outside of his lane. He goes outside of his lane, and he should never go outside of his lane, as if every other person trying to be a public intellectual doesn't go constantly outside of their own lane. And I agree. Like as soon as
there's gonna be 10 more hours of shit we could talk about, but yeah, it's almost 10 o'clock, and there's.
I got a fan.
We've been going nearly 4 hours. Well, you guys have been going nearly 4 hours. I've been going for 3 hours.
Let's listen to them just right at the end of this one. Kitty. I hear the kitty.
Bucket's the best name for a cat I've ever heard.
All right, here we go.
I agree. But it's like speaking of Sam Harris, there was a debate he had a decade or so ago with Reza Aslan about the politics of Israel, Palestine, and whether religion is intrinsically harmful. And Aslan made such an important point, but like that and the implications of his point are even more important. His point was that, like, if you were trying to understand the conflict between Israeli leadership and PLO or Hamas, or between Israeli settlers and Palestinians who have been there, if you're trying to understand this conflict and your primary lens for understanding it is your explanation is the conflict is happening because Israel's leaders think they have a biblical claim on the land, you are not going to get anywhere in understanding it. Like that is a delusional understanding. Like at best, that is like a secondary or tertiary, like passing rationalization for what's going on here. And if you don't understand it, you can do nothing about it. no matter how committed you are to understanding, to stopping the thing that you misunderstand, your misunderstanding will stop you from stopping it.
I pulled out that as the grand finale of their descriptions, the postmodern, post-colonialist descriptions, their descriptions of what the right wing are, their descriptions of what Tucker Carlson is, or replacement theory is, or what evangelical Christian nationalism is. You guys are so hard.
Yeah.
It's you guys do not understand all the thing that you're talking about, and you make it worse. Well, whatever the thing he just said right there at the end.
Yeah.
That your misunderstanding and trying to do something is worse than if you did nothing.
Yeah. No, that's because I was confused for a little bit. 'Cause I'm like, like the guy's mostly making sense. And I was confused because like he's sitting next to Dan McClellan. And I'm like, this is incongruous because because that's one of the because Israel is one of those things where like I went off and did my own research and it just makes me insane because like how come just stupid me just one day was like, you know what? I'm guessing Hamas has a website with an English translation and I can read exactly what Hamas believes. So one day I read the Hamas charter, all of it. And then I immediately thought, is NPR pretending not to know this? Or did they never look? Because one of those things has to be the case. Because once you've read Hamas's charter, you understand a lot better what Israel is up against. But NPR doesn't seem interested in that. And to give away, you can read it for yourself. But in Hamas's charter, they say multiple times in multiple ways that they will continue in armed struggle until there are no Jews in Palestine. Now, this is another one of those things where, like, when I ask people, what does Robin DiAngelo mean when she says there are no positive white identities? What does Hamas mean when they say that they intend to continue in armed struggle until there are no Jews in Palestine? Because I read from that they intend to continue in armed struggle until there are no Jews in Palestine. Meanwhile, the left-wing media keeps talking about how Israel is committing a genocide, even though 25% of Israeli citizens are Arab. It's so nonsensical, and that's what these guys do. So, like, it was just so strange to see this guy saying, like, you got to know what you're talking about, otherwise you might get yourself in trouble. Oh, you don't say.
Exactly. It's just exactly what it is. I think they can describe stuff. Like, I think there's all sorts of times where they're saying something that's perfectly understandable or true or makes sense or is a good reference of somebody to read and has descriptors of stuff that happened in the past, or that is really the history of some sort of situation. But then when they get around to try and describe the current day political situation, they have such a skewed, stupid view of stuff. It boggles the mind. And part of it is because they don't listen at all to the side that they're demonizing. And they're so big on do not other and do not demonize the other side unless we've construed that they have some sort of power. Not to mention that you're already inside of the liberal hegemony, the liberal world order that's going on right now, as if the side that they construe as having all the power really does anymore. So you want to hear them talk crap.
And he talks at length about Islam and the early 2000s and how this myth that religion is uniquely violent is the cause of 9/11 and of a lot of extremism and violent fundamentalism and things like that. Whereas the folks who are leveling those charges at religion are then turning around and not only excusing, but in some cases championing state violence on the grounds that the secular state must be supreme and that it.
Just think of this in the light too of him endorsing that letter. This whole thing started off of him endorsing that letter, calling all evangelicals were done with you.
White.
In this clip above, Rachel Denhollander does a number of unfortunate things, and I believe that it is really necessary to answer her straight up the middle. The first thing she says is that when dealing with survivors of sexual abuse, we have to handle the scriptures well. She says this right before she doesn't do that. In response to someone who said online that David fornicated, she said David didn't fornicate, David raped. To draw this conclusion, she says, you have to understand power dynamics and Hebrew and Nathan's parable and so on. Pastors who do not follow her counsel in this line of thought behave in devastating ways. She then goes on to assert, not demonstrate, that pastors in the church are very sloppy in how they handle the story of the woman at the well, or the case of Mary Magdalene, or the responsibility of a woman being abused to cry out, or the passages concerning the handling of evidence, and so on. This sloppiness amounts to a quote-unquote betrayal of the women being counseled. Conservative pastors look at such passages and quote-unquote minimize, quote-unquote downplay, or quote-unquote completely twist what was happening. The impact on the women being counseled is quote-unquote devastating. And so here's what is actually going on. While recognizing that all are sinners, biblical thinkers believe that the line separating the righteous from the unrighteous is a vertical line, and it runs from the greatest to the least. That line starts in palaces and ends in slums. There are good kings and evil kings. There are good rich people and bad poor people, and vice versa. There are good men and bad women, and good women and bad men. There are bad rapists and innocent victims. There are also evil rape accusers, like Potiphar's wife, Genesis 39, 14 and 15, and innocent defendants facing years in prison for something they didn't do, like Joseph, Genesis 39, 20. The line is vertical. The culprit could be anybody, which is why we labor to have fair trials. We are not to show favoritism to any class, rich or poor, Exodus 23:3. We expect the admonition to not show favoritism to the rich, James 2:1, but Scripture surprises us by saying we are not to show favoritism to anybody. But under the influence of critical theory, the line between good and evil is becoming a horizontal line, and it separates classes of people. Whites are on one side and POCs on the other. Men are on one side and women on the other. All of society is divided up between the oppressor classes and the oppressed classes. That line is horizontal, and if you are on the wrong side of the line, you are unjustified. And if you listen to Den Hollander carefully, you will see that she's drifting into that world. Not good. A sweet little power dynamic story.
Really holding it up in some sense as a deity.
I mean, one of the things that was so weird about Christopher Hitchens at that time was he was just this like ferocious critic of religious violence, but he was also like, yes, war in Iraq now, yes, please, very much right this second.
And folks,
that
like
wasn't a
Sam
religious
Harrison,
war, you doink.
You know,
what the fuck? That wasn't a religious war. It was a follow-on from another not religious war.
Well, and then look at this straw. He's very against straw man.
Yes,
but
war in
let's
Iraq
see what
now, yes, please,
Yeah.
very much right this second.
and folks like Sam Harris saying, I would love to kill these people, kind of.
totally against the straw man, right? That's what Sam Harris said.
But look, we got to go to the nuclear strike because, again, it affects all other issues. So now, you did not say we should do a nuclear strike on anybody, right? If need be, according to Sam Harris's book, I'm just hypotheticals. I'm just posing. What if we did a nuclear first strike on them? I mean, after all, they are Muslims. Now, you did not say we should do a nuclear strike on anybody, right? But you said we should, correct me where I'm wrong, we should consider doing a nuclear strike, a first nuclear strike, under certain circumstances. I find that to be incredibly dangerous talk.
Okay, but it is a dangerous fact of the world that we have nuclear arms, right? We have nuclear arms because we have already considered doing a nuclear strike under certain circumstances. That is what the Cold War was about. Yes, so this is the world that we're in right now. If we could uninvent these weapons, that would be great, right? But we have a nuclear doctrine, and it developed entirely in a Cold War context, where we were faced with the Soviet Union that was, for all of the flaws and all the ideological quirks, this was not a death cult and did not have the basis of being a death cult. These were rational actors, and their hopes and fears and aspirations were constrained by terrestrial concerns. These were not people who could say, we love death more than you infidels love life, right? And again, this is just 2 paragraphs in the End of Faith, right? This is not me talking ad nauseum about nuclear policy. But in just a very kind of game theoretic way, I asked us to consider how a belief in martyrdom, a belief in paradise, just unties this convention of mutually assured destruction as a deterrence. The Cold War was possible because neither side wanted to really play a game of chicken.
Sam said I would love to kill these people.
I would relish and love to
That's
kill
a-
these people is what Sam
Oh,
said.
for the love of God, don't make me defend Sam
my God.
Harris.
Yeah.
Like championing
It's like that
violence,
time. Like
saying
I'm
people
still
who have
angry at
these
the
beliefs are
Democrats for
basically
making
Beyonce.
Lindsey
being-
Graham be right for 90 whole seconds in a row.
I'm annoyed at them for making me the amount of times they made me defend Trump. I mean, we talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about that good people on both sides thing. Like one of the most annoying moments of my life is the amount of moments that this has happened where, like, my wife, one of her relatives was talking to me, and he knows I'm ex-Mormon and the only other ex-Mormon in the family, so he kind of just assumed I was like very lefty, like he is. And he's like, something about Donald Trump being racist, and I was like, well, I mean, how do you know he's racist? And he was just like, what? He's obviously racist. Like, what do you mean? Like, he's like, obviously, we take it as granted that he's racist, and you know that, and I know that. I was like, I actually don't know that. And I'm not, by the way, I'm not opposed to the idea that he could be racist. I'm really not that emotionally attached to the guy. But, like, tell me why. And he's like, well, let me tell you. Let me find it. And he whips out his phone. I was like, okay, fuck you for a second. Because
shithole countries.
Well, yeah, but even barring
he
that,
didn't know off the top of his head.
Yeah, like you
if
have
you're gonna-
you need
like,
a
that's the
reference for
worst
this.
thing you can be. That's the worst thing you could be in modern society is a racist. And if it's just so taken for granted that this guy is racist, then like you should just know off the top of your head. And the first thing he comes up with is the CNN story where he says good people on both sides. Like, huh, what do you say to
Yep.
that? And I was like, it cuts him off.
CNN lied.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's so
CNN lied.
fucking obvious. You want to watch the the very next half of the sentence where they cut him off. Where he
Did you
said,
wait?
"And I'm not
Wait.
talking about the Nazis."
Did you guys consult with a linguist?
Oh fuck,
Well,
we're
the-
not linguists.
Yeah, I guess I'm totally fucked because this guy has a square saying that he is a certified PhD in linguistics, and so he actually understands that unequivocally and irrevocably, Donald Trump said that Nazis are good people. Fuck.
For Xi to be president for life, and Trump says, maybe we have to give that a shot someday.
Like, enough is enough. How do people ignore that?
I'm pretty sure he was joking.
Joking about being president for life.
Yeah. If you listen to the audio, everybody's laughing. They're clearly in on the joke.
Okay, I'm sorry. Do you like Donald Trump?
No, I think there's a lot wrong with the guy. It's just this happens not to be one of those things.
I cannot believe I work with a Trump supporter.
What?
Let's get out of here, Jenny.
I voted for Hillary.
Did you hear about this?
What did he do?
Donald Trump banned an entire religion.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Muslim ban, so I guess Trump is banning all Muslims from coming here.
And he's probably going to kick out the ones that are already here.
Actually, it's not a ban against all Muslims. The travel ban is against 7 Muslim-majority countries. Yeah, but unemployment's at 4.1%. Trump isn't shutting down Meals on Wheels. Only 3% of their budget comes from the federal program. No, Mom, I agree with what he said about Donald Trump. I just don't think it's appropriate to say it at Aretha Franklin's funeral.
Are you serious, Gary?
Oh, I don't agree with it. It's like, if you're so concerned about terrorism, then why isn't Saudi Arabia on the list too, right?
Why the f are you defending Trump?
I'm not defending him. You guys are just misrepresenting him. Trump is not as bad as Hitler. Okay. Who put this here? And who took my lunch? Actually, LGBT categories have never been on the census, so no, Trump isn't removing them.
How much are the Russians paying you, comrade?
Wait till he comes to our place of business and starts collecting our Muslims and getting rid of them too.
Hatem and Ali are American citizens.
And that makes it okay?
What? No.
Holy shit.
Oh my God.
I didn't know you're a white supremacist, Gary. You know, this isn't even our floor. Let's just get the f off.
Look, he didn't fire Tillerson on Twitter. Tillerson already knew. Trump just leaked the information onto Twitter. Please, stop making me defend Donald Trump.
Where's your tiki torch, Pepe? God damn it.
In 2017, I was driving for Lyft, and I picked up a guy at the university. And he got in my car, and he pulled his headphones off. He's like, "Sorry, I was just listening to a thing. It was Trump." I said, "Oh, what's about Trump?" He said, "Oh, you know, he's a racist." And I remember I said exactly this because I said it to a lot of people. I said, I think Trump is a malignant narcissist and probably a sociopath, and I don't believe he cares who he hurts, but he's not a racist. And this guy goes, "What about the Muslim ban?" I said, "Muslim's not a race." And he said, "Well, they're mostly Arab." I said, "They're mostly not." He said, "Well, they're mostly brown." And I'm like, mostly not.
Those countries were singled out by the Obama administration.
Yeah, but it's just like, I mean, like, wait, like, just all, like all of these things, like,
They're living in
a
fantasy
billion
land. It's a
Muslims.
fantasy. There was a blue anon land. They were completely blue.
No, but like, I mean, but also just like this guy believes that like Arab equals Islam equals brown. So like, the fuck is the matter with you? Like,
You ever heard of the Persians?
You guys don't know soccer. Do you know Zinedine Zidane? Look up Zinedine Zidane.
Well, all the Persians.
That's a fucking Arab. He's a white guy.
Just a little bit more on this of these guys who are super not into straw men and not into demonizing of people.
Championing violence, saying people who have these beliefs are basically beyond saving and should just be.
That's what Sam Harris said.
Sam Harris said
So
that.
is he referring
I
to the
guess
time
I
where?
missed that.
So
No,
is he
Sam-
referring to the time where Sam Harris said that if like a religious
Preemptive nuclear
religiously
option.
dogmatic, the preemptive nuclear thing where
That he had like a 3-hour debate with Cenk Uygur about it. He said that you're taking out of context something.
Oh
I
my
said
god,
or
that
whatever.
debate was so fucking bad. Did you see Mormonism got brought up in that debate?
I can't remember it. It's so
He
long
was
ago.
trying to. It made Sam Harris look like a fucking genius. That's probably why I liked him for a moment. Was because like he was debating Cenk Uygur, who he explained it to him in terms of Mormonism. He said Mormonism is statistically it's like less likely, that it's less probable than Christianity, because Christianity says that Jesus will come back. Mormonism says that both Jesus will come back and he will come back in Jackson County, Missouri, or whatever. And he probably not, but Cenk was like, "No, they're both stupid. Of course."
Of course. 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 Like, of course. Of course.
They're both stupid. And Sam was like, "No, this is just like how probability works. Like, if you're using two different, anyway, whatever.
You're adding variables.
Yeah, you're adding another layer of complication that makes it less likely.
Mm-hmm.
Championing violence, saying people who have these beliefs are basically beyond saving and should just be killed.
Yeah, they're a cancer on the modern world, and they
Can I
cause
have a
more
source
harm.
on that, Don McClellan?
All
Can I have a
words,
source?
all words that Sam Harris did not say.
Like we just,
What I'm not even shocked by this, because that's exactly what he did to me when he told me, just by virtue of me saying that I don't buy into the power dynamics definition of racism that
That
precludes
makes me racist.
all other people but whites from being racist. He called me flagrantly racist because I don't support those who have gone through the copious amounts of study and the personal lived experiences of marginalized people. So I'm flagrantly racist. So obviously he's going to take Sam Harris's thing and say, you just want to kill all these people and you would delight in their death.
Just real quick, because I want to
He
make
sucks
sure.
so much.
I'm not a linguist, but flagrant means of
Wait a
something
minute,
considered
you
wrong
aren't?
or immoral.
Why did we let you on this
conspicuously
podcast?
Or obviously offensive. So you were conspicuously or obviously racist by denying racism. He's a linguist.
I mean, obviously.
Oh my god.
That's racist!
Yeah, flagrantly racist.
And it's the exact same rationalization, only it's holding up the secular state as the transcendent framework.
Which is
you
what
trying
you
to
also
compare
do when you hold up the secular state in your democratic, we're
Yeah.
gonna get rid of a.
He's over here trying to compare Sam Harris's atheism with religion, and yeah, I'm for that. I'm for telling people, hey, look, I know you say you're anti-religious, but you're religious. But like he's just advocating secular religion.
He's advocating secular religion, and then what he's
And then
pushing
deriding
towards
it.
is he wants the secular religion. He wants to be the person who becomes the senator of a Democratic Party that wants to control everything in your life. Was that a straw man? Well, at least I didn't say they want to kill you.
Rather than religion, and it is.
And Krakauer is in lockstep with these guys.
Exactly, and this is what we're kind of getting at, is that Krakauer's critique is basically picking up that critique from Hitchens and Harris and the others, and saying, I'm going to point it at Mormon fundamentalism.
I'm going to point it at religion by pointing at Mormonism, by pointing at Mormon fundamentalism, and making these things interchangeable with each other, and all different manifestations of an underlying truth, capital T truth, which is that religion causes violence. And if it's not checked by the state.
So some of that stuff I agree with. Let's see how we do. I can agree with some of that stuff, that they did try to paint that picture of the Mormons. But I think that you guys has painted a picture of Sam Harris and Hitchens that is much in the same way, demonizing the way that they wanted to demonize the Mormons. You guys wanted to demonize Harris and Hitchens and Dawkins and Dennett. I think that's
if
it.
It's not checked by rationality, it will inevitably cause violence.
And I know you had your hand up, but I want to say one more thing before I get to you. And one of the what I found is the most ridiculous manifestations of how tortured this logic is the notion that because religion is inherently violent.
He's about to say something really stupid.
Martin Luther King was not really a Christian because as a pacifist, he rejected the very core of the Bible and therefore could not have believed in the Bible.
Because I'm an authority on the core of the Bible.
Right. Well, because the Bible is inherently violent, you cannot be a pacifist and a true believer in the Bible. Therefore, Martin Luther King Jr. was not he was nominally a Christian, but otherwise a secularist.
The logic is so circular. It works with violent Muslims. It works with violent Christians. It's basically, this religion is violent. Well, how do you know?
It works with violent leftists.
Violent. Okay, but why are they representative of the core? Because violence is the core.
And then
if violence is the core, then non-violent people are on the periphery, violent people are at the core. And if people are so non-violent that they never engage in violence, then they're not even real Muslims or real Christians.
And this is where Harris says that the radicals are the true Muslims, the true Christians, because they're doing everything literally. And as I've tried to suggest in earlier weeks.
It's not Sam Harris who says that, it's Muslim.
I'm Ben Shapiro with Reality Check. A couple of weeks ago, HBO's Bill Maher got into it with the Islamic expert and horrifyingly mediocre actor who should never, ever, 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 ever play Batman, Ben Affleck, over whether Islam was indeed a violent religion. Here's the exchange.
And you're painting the whole religion with that. No, let's get down to who has the right answer here. 1 billion people, you say. All these billion people don't hold any of these... Don't hold these pernicious beliefs? No, I wouldn't... Well, they don't.
Of course, he's not alone in taking the PC position that Muslims the world over are tolerant and liberal. He's joined by our president, Barack Obama.
Islam teaches peace. Muslims the world over aspire to live with dignity and a sense of justice.
Wow, it's just like John Lennon's Imagine. Now, the question isn't whether Islam itself is violent. It's what its adherents believe, because that's what they act upon. There's plenty of violent material in the Old and New Testaments. I'm an Orthodox Jew. I read the Old Testament a lot. But believers in those particular texts are not currently ramming airliners into towers or beheading journalists or mutilating female genitalia. So, let's examine the question. Is radicalism in the Muslim world a tiny minority phenomenon? So to answer that question, we need to define our terms. We're really not talking about people who are active terrorists. Radical beliefs are a lot broader than terrorists, and anybody who argues otherwise is being naive or foolish or disingenuous. But terrorists draw their moral, financial, and religious support from those who are not terrorists themselves. So, who are the radicals? Ben Affleck actually was right on this. There are approximately 1.6 billion Muslims on the planet, and they're from 49 different countries in terms of where they have a majority. All the population stats, by the way, are from Pew Research as of 2011. Indonesia is the world's most populous Muslim country. It's got almost 205 million Muslims living there. According to one 2009 poll, it showed almost 50% of Indonesians actually support strict Sharia law, not just in Indonesia, but in a lot of countries, and 70% blame the United States, Israel, or somebody else for 9/11. So, you make that calculation, it's about 143 million people who are radicalized. You scared yet? No, we're just getting started. Okay, Egypt, 80 million Muslims. According to that same 2009 poll, it showed that 65% want strict Sharia law in every Islamic country, and almost 70% said that they had positive or mixed feelings about bin Laden. So that's 55.2 million more radicals. Pakistan has almost 179 million Muslims. 76%, just over 3/4, want strict Sharia law in all Islamic countries. That is another 135.4 million radicals. Bangladesh, not a country you tend to think of as Muslim, but there are 149 million Muslims living there. As of 2013, just over a quarter said suicide bombings or targeting of civilians was sometimes justified. Another 82% want Sharia to be the official law of the country, and 2/3 said honor killings of women can sometimes be justified. Honor killings, 2/3. It's 121.9 million radicals. Nigeria, more radical. Iraq, 31, or at least occasionally Hamas is enjoying like in areas. 78. Here is the total of the countries that we've gone through just now. 680 million, 30,000. 680 million, 30,000 radical Muslims. And that's out of a total population in those countries of 942.4 million Muslims total. And it seems fair to assume that similar proportions of people in countries like, say, like Algeria, Syria, Sudan, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Tunisia, Somalia, and Libya are also radicalized. And if they are, then, well, we're above 800 million Muslims who are radicalized. More than half the Muslims on earth. That's not a minority, that's now a majority. And that's still not even surveying hundreds of millions of Muslims in other countries. In other words, the myth of the tiny radical Muslim minority is just that. It's a myth. And
don't be an imperialist right at the end, man.
There's ideology.
And there's things like a Pew Research reports that it is the majority of Muslims. It's not just a minority of
Logical literalism, and the scriptures are the excuse.
The only true Mormons are the ones going around trying to behead drunk people and throw javelins
Marry
through the hearts
bunch
of
of
men
women.
in tents.
Yeah. And that is a way.
It's such a false equivocation. It's such a false equivocation.
So is that something that happened in? Is that something that happened in Mormon history, or is that like a rule that says that
The scriptures, or it's in the scriptures, so Mormons must be doing that, and then they say that's the same as Muslims, whereas the Muslims do actually, on large, like you look at, we could probably pull up Pew Research reports that say en masse. I know it's for sure as far as like the gay people, on if the killing the gay people is true or not. The majority of them are down with that. It's not like Mormons where it's a very small minority at the core of it.
No, and also it's like, because like in Mormonism, there is a scriptural story about a guy who decapitates a drunk man because an angel tells him.
Yeah,
to do that.
that's what I'm saying. But that's
And
not
it's just a
commandment.
story, and it's literally never happened in real life. Meanwhile, in the Ahadith, it says to throw homosexuals off of rooftops. And if you want to know if this is going on, go to a non-censored video source and look up ISIS gays, and you can spend the rest of this month just watching videos of ISIS operatives literally throwing people accused of homosexuality off of roofs. Only men, though, not the women, because
So no, I had this like earlier. Somebody was trying to talk about. I can't remember who it was. It was somebody in one of the ex-Mormon groups trying to basically straw man religion and talking about how, I get my morality of the Bible. That's how I found out that it's okay to get your dad drunk and seduce him and have his baby. And they're talking about that story where Lot's daughters did that to him.
Yeah,
like,
that's
okay,
not
I'm not a Bible
story.
believer. I'm not a Bible guy, but that's a story. There was no point where it commanded you and said, hey, they were actually good for doing that.
Good. It doesn't say
a lot of
God
stories.
thinks it's good. The whole
I
point
watched
of
Dragon
that
Ball
story
Z.
is that it was bad.
I watched Dragon Ball Z and Vegeta, in order to coax Goku into a match with him, murders an entire fucking stadium worth of spectators. I didn't go and then say like, Akira Toriyama thinks that fucking murdering an entire stadium full of spectators is a moral thing to do. It like, God.
So looking at the Muslims and looking at the evangelicals, he makes this claim that most evangelicals were kind of racist-y according to his linguistics. And Sam Harris is making a point that most Muslims believe in certain types of violence as appropriate or the proper way to go about dealing with intercivilizational conflict. Is that, are we comparing apples to apples right there? But evangelicals don't really have that sort of stuff directly as part of their mainstay.
Islam has it built into the Quran, like, because
they can say that there's parts in the Bible that say this or that or the other.
You marry Christianity and politics using the Bible? Yes. Do you have to marry politics and religion using the Bible? Maybe. Is it clearly possible from the history of Christianity to have state and religion separated? Yes, we know that, and Christianity, that is.
So the
Islam, like, this is something that Sam Harris has absolutely laid out over hours and hours of podcasts. He's done a great job of it. Islam is configured that there is no separation between the religion and the state. That's built into the Quran in a way that it is not built into the Bible. You can get that interpretation from the Bible, and you can get that not that from the Bible. So it's ambiguous there. The Quran is not.
So to circle back to who did Jared think that he's trying to emulate when he talks? And he was pointing to Sam Harris. He's saying he tries to come across as like that super Sam Harris rational talking, like slow, quiet voice type way of presenting himself.
It's if you listen to Sam Harris in his podcast, he sounds exactly like Dan McClellan. His cadence, not his points, obviously, because Sam Harris is absurd, but he's not a crazy postmodernist.
Sam's famous book is Letter to a Christian Nation, and we started this whole thing off of our argument with Dan about his open letter to evangelicals, right? But in Sam Harris's Letter to a Christian Nation, or whenever he's talking about Muslims, is there any point where Sam Harris started out saying, "Dear Muslims, we are so done with you"? It's just
if he would have, it would have been news.
Time to kill you all.
Sam Harris was not just measured in his cadence; he was always measured in the words too. Not as measured as you are, especially if you go around pushing around that stupid letter to the evangelicals. Sam Harris was always measured, and he was never say, "Oh, it would just be better to kill them and get rid of them, or they're cancer on the earth." He said, we need to talk to them rationally. We need to have these people get rational. We need to speak to them honestly. We need to speak honestly to the situation and try to help wake people up to rationality. That was his view as the answer out of that. It wasn't to kill them. What was their answer? What's their answer from that open letter to evangelicals? Like,
do they have an answer?
What's the point of that thing but to irritate people?
The issue of the mob. For at least a decade now, anyone who spoke out against any manifestation of this modern hyper-compassionate constellation we know as woke idiocy was very likely to be vilified, ostracized, and shamed. It hurts people a lot. This is particularly true of conscientious, reliable, dutiful, hardworking people who are also prone to guilt and who can be manipulated by the dark triad types because of their moral nature.
What is the point?
That's some Derek Bell shit right there.
Yeah, I can't think of any sort of freaking reason that, like, what sort of use would that stupid letter be except for to him to signify his virtue? That's all it was there for, putting up 4 years later. It's just a great big virtue signal. Whereas Sam Harris's Letter to a Christian Nation was, he's actually trying to make a difference, not just trying to show his virtue on his political team. There's no political team side to that.
What a joke.
I'm just looking at this one last time.
Oh, we're going to see if there's a prescription.
I need to tell you something. People have had it with you. Dear Muslim, the Sam Harris's Letter to a Christian Nation. Dear Christian Nation, I need to tell you something. People have had it with you. They're done. They want nothing to do with you any longer, and here's why.
So he just projected. He totally projected onto Sam Harris the exact same thing that he reblasted.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's so pithy and so perfect, but the iron law of projection never misses.
Okay, but you're misunderstanding the idea that Sam Harris was punching down.
Oh,
yeah.
How we always forget the power press footage.
I was afraid that you would miss that.
We're flagrantly
Sam
racist.
Harris's mom produced Golden Girls.
Yeah,
you know that, Jared?
That's why he's rich. That's why he had.
That's why he's rich. Sam Harris's mom was one of the producers of the Golden Girls.
Thank you for being a friend.
Wow, he's got an emerald mine from apartheid South Africa. What a piece of shit.
Bunch of old white broads living in Florida.
Holy shit.
And white evangelical. All those people who had it with you see it all clearly. They recognize the toxic source of your duality. They see the pigmentation and party are your sole religion.
Holy
dear
shit.
Sam Harris, dear Arab Muslim. All those people who've had it with you see it clearly. They recognize the toxic source of your duality. They see that pigmentation and party are your sole religion.
See, the funniest part is you could just stop at Dear Arab Muslim and everybody understands immediately that what you're about to say is shitty because it's a sweeping generalization of an entire group of people based solely on their ethnicity and where they live.
If there's
By the
anybody,
way, this is a big deal, is that because in Christianity, especially nowadays, now granted it wasn't always this way, But nowadays, it is standard in Christianity that you read the scriptures in your native tongue. There is no such thing as a translation of the Quran according to Muslim theology. The Quran is it in the Arabic language and literally nothing else, which is why when you find a book that has an English and Arabic next together, it's the Quran, it will never say translation. It will say the meanings of the glorious Quran.
Oh shit!
Which is
I didn't
an
realize
issue
I
in
have a
Islam.
Quran. I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah, if you look at it, it'll say clear. It'll say very carefully. If there's any other language, it'll say the meanings of, because I know this has come up in woke Islam world, where some people say like, why? Why do I have to learn Arabic? In Islam, you have to. Like, it's built into it. Like the Quran in any other language than classical Arabic, under Muslim theological jurisprudence, is not the Quran and is a heresy. It's not just not allowed, it is explicitly prohibited.
That is definitely worse than
Yeah.
Christianity.
You will never find the Quran in English without the Arabic next to it for that reason.
Huh. I did not know that.
They are extremely sensitive about it.
Again, though, can't take your word on that because I don't know. Do you have a doctorate in this shit?
Oh, fuck. I don't have a doctorate.
Okay, I gotta strike that from the record.
Listen,
I just had to go learn it. This is one of the things like I'm realizing more and more and more and more. Because like to go into debt to go to medical school or to get an engineering degree, okay.
Yeah.
But the humanities, like when literally all you do is just read, when you pay other people to tell you what books to read.
It's phony degree. I know it's phony degree. Oh,
his communications is phony. No, that's a deep cut. That's
The
classic
Simpsons?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Son, I'm afraid that leg is hanging by a thread. Lubchenko must return to game. Oh, your playing days are over, my friend. But you can always fall back on your degree in communications. Oh, dear Lord. I know. It's funny, Major. Lubchenko learned nothing. Nothing.
They say that you aren't interested in perpetuating the love of Allah or emulating the heart of Allah. They see that you aren't burdened to love the least or to agents of compassion or to care for your Christian, gay, African, or female or poor neighbors as yourself. They see that you're really interested in doing is making Allah in your own ivory image and demanding that the world bow down to it. They recognize this all about Arabic, Muslim, Shia, not dark. And not because of a white Allah. Ooh, I'm gonna kill for that. I know you don't realize, but you're digging your own grave in these days, the grave of your very faith tradition. Your willingness to align yourself with cruelty is a costly marriage. Yes, you've gained a Supreme Court seat, which what's the thing that they've wanted for the past 50 years, the hardest, and they've gotten that now. That's why Doug Wilson gave a whole thing saying, like, guess what? All you goofball Republicans, like anti-Trumpers, you got to send your thanks to Trump. Better send it out. I know you hate him, but sorry, you got the thing.
Gratitude to Trump. While all of this is the sheer grace of God, it remains true that the sovereign God uses human means to accomplish his purposes, and it is no different with this situation. And this means that every last Christian, David French and Kevin Williamson included, ought to look for some way to express their gratitude for Donald J. Trump. This would not have happened without him, because he kept his campaign promise to appoint a particular brand of justice to the Supreme Court, because God then gave him the opportunity to appoint 3 of them. This decision was made possible. Elections have consequences, and the election of Trump in 2016 had this consequence. I want to make a particular point of expressing my gratitude to Trump because when he, God's intended instrument for accomplishing this marvelous thing, announced his candidacy, I did not recognize in him anything good. I expended quite a bit of energy opposing him, and during the primaries, I had a good deal of fun at his expense. In the general election of 2016, I did not vote for him. He had made a promise to appoint the kind of judges I would like, and I was way too sophisticated to believe something like that. If reputable Republicans can't get reliable justices onto the court, what could a disreputable Republican do? Well, as it turns out, he could do markedly better than the reputable ones. You can put my self-referential, quote-unquote, sophisticated above in scare quotes if you like, because I did not read the story right, the story that God had decided to tell. I care about a lot of political issues, all of them actually, but if you put all of them in the scales on one side and the right to life issue on the other side, the bowl holding the life issue would hit the table pretty hard. I care about this issue more than all the others put together, and something that I was not sure I would ever see in my lifetime has been a gift to all of us from Donald J. Trump. May God truly bless him for this.
A few months with the presidency as a mouthpiece and the cheap high of temporary power, but you've lost a whole lot more. You've lost an audience with millions of wise, decent, good-hearted, faithful people with eyes to see the ugliness. You've lost any moral high ground or spiritual authority with a generation. You've lost because if you aligned yourself with the Clintons, you would have been a good person.
Do they not understand they're talking to millions of people right here? Like they're telling millions of people that they've lost. It says you've lost an audience with millions of wise, decent.
It's so dumb.
They're talking to hundreds of millions of people, right? Like how many?
It's pure
I guess
shit
specifically
politics.
evangelicals.
It's pure.
I know
dog
it's
shit
likely you'll
politics.
dismiss these words. No, we'll answer them directly. We're not dismissing you. We are answering you. You are a racist, bigoted shithead. Fuck right off. That's the answer. Not dismissed, read and answered.
And Flip has a PhD in racism, so fuck off.
Oh, that's right.
You've lost any semblance of Allah likeness. You've lost the plot, and most of all, you've lost your soul. I know you're likely to dismiss these words. The fact that you've made your bed with such malevolence shows how far gone you are and how insulated you are from the reality in front of you. But I had to at least try. I had to. How do I reach these kids? How do I reach these kids?
How do I reach the kids?
How do I reach these kids?
Every night I wrap myself up in malevolence and just fall right.
This is what Allah would do. Maybe you need to read what he said again if he still matters to you. Good crap. That sucks.
Oh,
that sucks so much. That sucks so much that somebody who's got all those degrees thought that was a good letter.
Yeah, no, that's the thing,
Somebody
but
who has supposedly that wide, long, arching view of the back and forth fight of religions, and that today's majority becomes tomorrow's murdered minority across centuries and centuries and centuries, and it's all just a matter of time till it flips. Somebody who's supposed to have that bird's eye intellectual, what's the phrase that Jonathan Haidt would use, the disinterested view, because you are an academic. Oh, except you're not. You're an activist. You're an activist shit, and you can't trust anything an activist says, really.
Yeah,
So.
he got a degree in activism. It was called theology, but it was in activism, and we know that because the fucking coursework says so.
Yeah, and that's what they all say. I had another thing I didn't pull up, but Rod Dreher had been calling out since years before. I was looking for somebody who was on the front of divinity schools who said these divinity schools have all gone woke. And Rod Dreher, he was actually just on Peterson a couple of days ago, although they didn't bring it up. But he's put out a bunch of different stuff. I think it's called the Conservative Christian. He's put out a bunch of things saying, "Hey, these divinity schools, guys. Anybody looked at these divinity schools?" And since like 4, 5, 6 years ago. He just released a book called Live Not by Lies or something like that. And it's all about Solzhenitsyn and all this stuff. But he had a bunch of vlogs about what's going on at divinity schools here. Everybody, somebody look at this.
Yeah, this is another one of those things where like I just saw hints of it. Where like years and years ago, like I met somebody who's going to a divinity school. I'm like, oh, like what are you studying? And I just remember the answer going like, wait, so it's not religion? like you're not studying actual religions. It's by the sounds of it, you know. In fact, by the sounds of it, this is a seminary for your religion.
Yep. So, and you like this should be so much easier with you because you're one of the few persons who does agree that all those things are religious and religion.
Yeah.
So you're finally a woke person who should understand perfectly that all this crap is religion. The American conservative, that's what it's called. The white supremacist dog ate Yale Divinity School students' homework. The woke divine. And they're all woke. That's one of the things we said to Jackson Washburn. I was like, well, we got a 50% chance of getting in. I mean, I've got probably degrees in grade. I could get in. But what do you want to bet that to get into the Harvard one to up my chances of 50% to maybe 60%? is if I told him I had some sort of identity politics, but not one of those destructive identities, Dan McCracken. Just
Well,
the
'cause when
I've
you
also
apply to
never
these
said
things-
anything racist on Twitter, so
When you apply to these things, they want you to send a picture, right? So
put makeup on,
eyeliner and make sure that your painted fingernails are showing.
I'll just send my girlfriend's picture.
There you go. That'll do it.
Oh my god! All righty.
All right.
Did we do
Well, we taught them. They're gonna listen. And they're
Yeah.
gonna change. They're gonna come to Jesus.
They're all about having conversations. We know
They're
that
all about
because they
having
keep
conversations.
because they keep banning us, and then we do a 4-hour podcast about it.
They're all
That's how
about
that kinda works.
reflecting on themselves because they say
Well,
that these other people don't reflect on themselves, but they do.
They've fixed racism, and now we've fixed non-racism, and we go back to racist America and be happily racist.
Can't we just go back to how it was in the
Can't.
time?
I just hope he becomes our next senator. Our next senator here in Utah.
Dude, he got beaten by 2-1 on the last one. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
he said he increased it by 16 points. How bad
Oh,
that district used to
Jesus.
be.
What district is he in? Where does he live? I wonder.
District 10. I'll pull up the Politico thing. I got
Yeah,
it right
let's
there
see.
if you want. And he's running again.
District 10. West Jordan, South Jordan, and Harriman. Ooh,
It is on the screen. 44,000 votes to 23,000 votes.
Jesus. 23,000 people thought that he was a good idea. Okay.
Yeah, they probably don't know what.
Well, I'm sure the other guys, pretty
The
similar.
other guy's probably
levels of bullshit.
terrible. I'll vote. I'll go to the Idaho primary. I'll vote Democrat just because I fucking hate Mike Simpson and Crapo.
He
The
had
last time I
no
voted-
challenge at the Democrat convention.
The last time I voted for any candidate was John Huntsman Jr. And that's the last time I voted for, it's the last time I voted for any candidate, but it's also the last time I voted for a Republican. And
Well, look at that.
my vote for John Huntsman Jr. is the only vote I ever cast in my life that I did not regret.
Look at that. He ran for House of Representatives too.
Yeah. That was Butters' old district. Remember Chris Butters?
Yeah.
That was his old district.
Yep.
That makes sense. Oh my god, the guy now is an Osmond? Of the Osmonds? Let's see him smile. Does he have giant teeth? I don't know if he's an Osmond or just an Osmond. He is! He's totally one of the Osmonds!
Anyway, I kind of think that like maybe he would back off for his academic prowess, back off of the sophistry of CRT and all that sorts of stuff. Although once he enters this arena of having to be on the Democratic ticket, he has to start defending that stuff. I don't know. Maybe you never know with humanities degree people; they all have to defend it and pretend like it makes any sort of sense. But,
but if you're Mormon
he has
at
an
all, and you're
he has
trying
an
to feel-
extra level of having to try to defend that stuff if he wants to be on the Democratic ticket.
Well, and the other side of it is you have to defend the fact that, like, if you really want to appeal to the woke crowd and you want to be a Mormon who describes the idea that Joseph Smith restored God's true church, like, you have to at least to some degree defend Joseph Smith, who
He's got to defend Joseph Smith. He's got to make the point that under the banner of heaven was Dustin Lance Black being bigoted to him, and still pull off claiming he's an ally of
What a guy! He's if anyone can do it, I'll vote Dan.
Oh gosh,
got a hell of a task before him. Good
Yeah.
luck, buddy.
I hope you do not win ever. I hope
Oh
you're
my
not
God,
in power
yeah.
of anything ever. I hope you do not get in charge of anything ever but your family.
You are
That's
the
my hope.
exact person who should not ever be in charge of anything.
Exactly. Gnostic goof. Okay. Anything else?
Nah, I think we killed it.
We murdered it.
It's dead. Should I take my shirt off and play some bad solos?
Probably. We need to get more views.
We might get like suddenly 5,000 views just for those girls.
Or the
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I guess.
I'm doing a little too good. I got to do it worse.
I don't think he's playing live. I think he's faking that.
That's about good. This is what I'm
Here's
doing tomorrow.
that's the stuff you're practicing with the dude. Is that you're not
missing
appropriate?
enough.
He's only half appropriating it too.
Yeah, so can you do like half of a Brazilian song without being culturally appropriating?
God damn
Or
it. No, dude, you have no idea how bad it is. Because, like, so the guy that I'm, like, the guy who taught me everything about music, he's like my brother. But he's like me. Like, he was born in Brazil, but raised in America. He's a Brazilian American. He's a white guy, all this stuff. But he's a composer, and he's brilliant. And he writes a lot of songs. And, like, and I even asked him a little bit, because, you know, I was talking to him about, like, this group that I'm working with. You know, and like we were talking about politics, and I said, you know, someday they're going to come at you with the cultural appropriation stuff. And he said, well, they kind of already have, at least to the samba, the dancing people. But like his songs, he writes songs from the perspective of Africans who were enslaved and taken to Brazil, and they are wonderful, beautiful. Like, I mean, you know, because his lyrics are excellent. The guy's not just a great musician; he's a great lyricist, and he writes these beautiful songs. He's got a song about the big boat, like it's navio tombeiro is the Portuguese words, but about the big ship. And you know, it's the whole song is a first person about, like, you know, sir, I came from Africa, but it wasn't my choice, you know.
Holy shit.
And, yeah, and they're great. But I like, and I'm waiting, I'm hoping maybe it'll never happen. If anybody finds out what he's saying, then they're gonna come after him for cultural appropriation, which is
appropriating slave culture.
It's just evil, yeah. Because also it's just this idea that, like, okay, so
because you can't
I
write
don't have
music
any
from the perspective of anybody else. But
to my knowledge, I don't have any West African ancestry. I could, but lots of people who look like me have found out that they have. But that's just this other wickedness that, like, because, you know, for him, it was for him an almost religious thing to put himself as best as he could into that space of what would it be like to be ripped in your home and put in chains, and because, you know, in his song he talks about, like, I was in a ship with all these people and the smell was terrible, you know. I mean, it all rhymes in Portuguese, but, you know, and yeah, just that wickedness, because they say, oh, no, you can't do that, you wicked person. Where it's like, no, what more? I mean, if anybody's doing the work of trying to reconcile this shit, it would be a white guy singing songs as honestly as possible from the perspective of people who are enslaved. But in woke world, that, you know, because you cannot win, obviously, there's no anything. Yeah, he's extra double super racist. It would be better if he just simply never even thought about it, you know, at least according to them.
Can't believe that's flagrant racist.
She's got 100,000.
Yeah, it's 100,000 views. She's gonna be
if
terrible.
There are 16 total notes in this, I'll be impressed.
You're forgetting the category. There's a category. I can't believe I let flagrantly racist people talk that long. You're forgetting the category, not really playing it.
Oh, she's not even playing it. Let's see. Oh, she's not playing that.
I think she can play it, but that's the song. That's the song.
She's definitely impersonating it well.
She's impersonating it, but it's the song. We're hearing the song.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't even want to play that much of it because I probably get copyrighted on the song.
Yeah. So she's a faker. So 100,000 views.
I think she could play. She could play it, but I mean, to sound exactly like David Gilmour, because it's right from the song.
100,000 views for that, and she doesn't get shut down by David Gilmour, or does David Gilmour get to look at her topless?
That's TikTok. That's one of the things about TikTok, because it's kind of like the wild, wild west of it's not as regulated as this stuff is.
Maybe that should be a tradition, is just watching that, watching dog shit topless women play guitar.
Or you got to guess.
Oh, another one.
Uh-oh.
I don't know.
Turn off
So
the
far,
volume first.
it says female guitarist, and it says LGBTQ.
Oh
So far, you've thrown a zero curveballs, and she has 84,000 views. She's gonna be terrible.
84,000 views. Rackham. What is that? Rage Against the Machine. Uh-oh. Oh, God. See, that guy, he couldn't play guitar to begin with. That guy can't play guitar, let alone somebody imitating him. What's his name? Tom Morello? Oh, you bitch.
You can't
Like,
tell.
I don't know.
It's not play. It's not really. It's just a song.
Damn it. Because that's the thing. Like,
She knows she knows the chords. It's just doesn't really sound like it.
I don't know. Like, it's anathema to me to look at a young person picking up an instrument and saying anything but keep working and don't let people get you down, and don't don't worry about how good you are. Just keep working. But like, if you're putting on your bra and going on TikTok, like, god damn it, no, put that fucking guitar down. Go do other things. Stop wasting your and my life. And like, a deserving person could use that guitar. And you're
Put the guitar down or put a fucking shirt on. One of the two.
Alrighty, I gotta go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sweet.
Good time.
Well done.
All right. We'll see you guys
Later.